Mazel tov to Moshe Levi and his mishpacha, Moshe and Abigail. They had a precious baby girl last Shabbos Kodesh. Her name is Shifra Rachel, a beautiful name. And on behalf of the whole tzibur, I want to give a bracha to Moshe and his wife. They should be megadol Shifra Rachel l'Torah, l'chuppah, u'lemaisim tovim. They should have. Really a tremendous mazel tov to Moshe, an ehrlich person, a growing, sweet person who I feel lucky to learn with always on the Thursday nights. I want to just really, we should celebrate together, simcha, go from simcha to simcha. We should continue to celebrate good besuras. Amen. The past couple of weeks have been a time that a lot of reflection. It's brought me back, the p'tira of my Rabbi has brought me back to my youth. And in many ways, like thoughts have been flooding my mind. I've been in touch practically with friends that I haven't spoken to in many years. I've heard haspedim. I've listened to different eulogies from people who had shaykhs to my Rebbe all the different years. It's just been a lot of reflection about many years of my life. And it's interesting, in Parshas Emor, something happened years ago that I want to share with the chevra. I haven't thought about this in literally decades. I think I mentioned to my kids, I haven't like checked up the halacha. I got curious in the last week, Parshas Emor. This story is a story of youth. I'll share what happened. with the chevra. I don't remember my Rebbe's psak. My Rebbe was involved. I don't remember his psak. It just was one of the many interesting, around my Rebbe, important things happened. He taught us everything was important. Every prayer, every bracha, things were just important around somebody who lived life very, very carefully. There was an exactness to him. His son, he was a very big medaktik in halacha, very careful with halacha. I remember we used to listen to more tkiyas, Rosh Hashanah afternoon. The tkiyas were very serious and very holy, the whole Rosh Hashanah. And then we would gather, and my Rebbe would ask for different sounds, different shittas, but it was done very serious. We'd gather in a room, and we would all the Talmidim, the Chevra would be around. My Rebbe would ask for different sounds. He was just very serious about Torah, about mitzvahs, about halacha, tremendous medaktek in Torah. But more than I want to give over the diktuk in halacha, is like a friend of mine said in a eulogy for him, everything was a chaviyah. Everything was like gishmak. Everything counted and mattered, even like hearing those kailas it was an experience. He wasn't frivolous about it. We went to a room. Things felt large around him because things mattered. So just hearing a new set of tkiyas was important. So there were many people that came by the yeshiva. I was telling Avi about a yid who was searching for Yiddishkeit in British Columbia and Canada, showed up to yeshiva one day. He had lived in India for 3 years. He found Musar and wanted to know. He studied Musar for 2 years. Then he wanted to know more about, is there anybody who lives Musar? He found my Rebbe, he moved in, he wrote a book about my Rebbe called Climbing Jacob's Ladder. He became a Talmud Mufak of my Rebbe. Very interesting people and experience surrounded a person who was a seeker and a servant of Hashem. One day he shows up to yeshiva. One of the most interesting figures, a guy comes, he's an ani. He has no place to sleep. Now, Far Rockaway today is a very big city. The Far Rockaway of youth was a wonderful city. Today, the way I used to call Brooklyn is Far Rockaway. It's a bustling, there are yeshivas and koilim, but it wasn't like that. There weren't many, I can't say there were many aniyim who came around collecting. It wasn't so like that. And one day in Yeshiva Far Rockaway shows up an ani. It's a very confusing ani. I don't know, I'm not the best with clothing, as you probably could tell. But he came with very fancy clothing. Everybody said his clothing was clothing of an asherus, of an usher, a rich man. He had very fancy glasses, the guy said. They said, you know how much that suit is worth? But he came, but he had nothing. He slept in the yeshiva. A very interesting man. My brother, my old Achi Agadol, my brother is a wonderful person. My brother first wanted to bring him home. That wasn't safe. A story for itself. And I caught my brother, my tzaddik older brother, sneaking out late at night in my house with his pajamas. He said, Dov, where are you going? He was going to sleep in the yeshiva that the ani shouldn't sleep alone. And my brother slept in the yeshiva. Mamish slept on the floor. There was no beds. There wasn't a dorm. He slept on the floor. People didn't know if they should host the ani. People were afraid. So my brother, he shouldn't sleep alone. Now this ani who showed up, he had a whole story to tell. I mean, really, he's a rich man. He had the clothing of a rich man. And he said he had some story. Nobody can verify, true or not true, how he lost all his money, but he was rich. And he came to yeshiva. Now, one of the things that happened is he said he was a kohen. The guy said, I'm a kohen, I want the aliyah of kohen. And the question became, are we to trust him? There's a mitzvah d'oraisa, Parshas Emor, and the mitzvah d'oraisa is v'kidashtoi. There's a mitzvah d'oraisa to sanctify a kohen. Ki es lechem aleikecha hu makriv. He brings the karbanos. Kodesh yelach. He's holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem mekadeshchem. There's a mitzvah d'oraisa to make a kohen holy. What does that mitzvah d'oraisa include? A Gemara Gittin, New Testament Beis. V'kidashtoi l'chol davar shebektusha. Tana d'ber b'yishma v'kidashtoi l'chol davar shebektusha l'ftayach rishon v'levarach rishon v'litol mani yafer rishon. If you're giving out cookies, you put the kohen first. If there's the asking who should bench, the kohen benches. A mitzvah d'oraisa v'kidashtoi. The kohen gets the first aliyah. The question then becomes, and that's a mitzvah d'oraisa we have, to be mechabed the kohen. If you come, you're giving out food, you give the kohen first. If you're looking who should bench, you're being mechabed your guest to bench, and there's a kohen, that's the mitzvah d'oraisa. It's an asay, heintige Parshas Emor, v'kidashtoi, let him bench first. You ask the kohen to bench, you have a mitzvah d'oraisa, and mamish an asay v'kidashtoi. You're giving out some food, he goes first. He gets the first aliyah. The question is, let's say a fella shows up and says, I'm a kohen. Maybe, I don't know. So the Mechaber in Even Ezer, Sif Gimel, the Mechaber says in Siman Gimel that a guy's not Neman. A guy's not Neman. The Ramah argues and says Bizman Hazeh. The Ramah says Bizman Hazeh, for the first aliyah and for duchening, he's believed. Ask all the Noisei Kalim. All the Noisei Kalim ask the Kasha, how is he believed for duchening? Bishleima, they say, I understand he's believed for the aliyah. There's no isser for Yisrael to get the first aliyah. It's not an isser. But for duchening, it's an isser asay. Koi sevarchu es b'nei Yisrael. A Yisrael who goes up to duchen is over an isser asay. Yisrael's not let a duchen. I have a theory. Over Pesach, I went Cholomayid Pesach. I had the beautiful schus of davening with the Sfardim. There was a Svardish minyan. It was, even for me, it was like, it wasn't Vasikin, but for a guy like me, it felt like Vasikin. It was earlier, a little earlier. It wasn't so early, but it was a little earlier than the late minyan. But I got the opportunity to do Birchas Kehanim. I have a Chavivus for Birchas Kehanim, and I got the chance to get blessed by the Kehanim twice each davening, Shachris and Musaf. The Ashkenazim, we don't do it in Chutz La'aretz, 0 on Chol Hamoed. The Sfardim did it twice, they do it every day. So I figured here's an opportunity to get Birchas Kehanim, and I daven with the Sfardim, beautiful minyan. And I saw that this group of Sfardim, I heard this in Syrian Maish, a lot of Sfardim don't do that. When they did Birchas Kehanim, if anybody ever saw this, the Chazan doesn't say Yivarechecha. The Kohanim say Baruch Atah Hashem L'keinu Melech Asher K'shanu Tzivanu L'varech Sama Yisrael Ba'ava, and then the Kohanim say Yivarechecha. The Chazan doesn't say Yivarechecha. He starts from Hashem. They say Hashem. Yishmerecha. They say Yishmerecha. But Yivarechecha the Kohen doesn't say. Now, somebody told me this is only the Syrians. The Chevra there, after davening, they said, Kavod Rav, speak. So I said, I'll speak on condition I can ask you 2 questions. So they said, okay, you ask, and then you can speak. So I asked one question, I don't remember what I asked. My second question I asked them is why the Chazan didn't say Yivrechecha. They looked around, they said, we don't know. Lo yodim. But they said, we want you to know that in Eretz Yisrael, Rav Yosef tells the Svardim that the Chazan has to say Yivrecha. It sounds very strange. The Chazan says Hashem v'yishmerecha. There's no such pasuk. Now I assume by them that the Chazan whispers Yivrechecha. They weren't sure. I assume he should whisper it to himself. It's weird to say Hashem v'yishmerecha. Now I want to say they're Svardim. Svardim say Hashem's name, L'Shem Shamayim. So I'm the Ashkenazic guy, like to say Hashem's name. Like you have to say a pasuk. By Svardim, again, everybody's makbid, chas v'shalom, Ashkenaz Svard, any Yid doesn't say Shem Shamayim L'Vatala. But a Svardish Yid will say Ado, they'll say Hashem's name for a reason. So it could be they're not as worried, I don't know. I should have to be ma'ayin. But I asked why they don't say Yivrechecha. There were 2 theories that we had. One theory I had is because be'emes the Chazan saying Yivrecha Hashem Yishmerecha is a big problem. Kaisevarchu, it's an Isser Asay for Yisrael to say Birchas Kehanim. So I wondered if their minhag was to say, that the Chazan doesn't say Yivrechecha, he doesn't want to say the whole Birchas Kehanim. That was one theory. My other theory was a hefsek, that they made a bracha, they should get to write Yivrechecha. Maybe that's like, no, I'll hefsek, I don't know the answer. If somebody knows the time of the minhag, I'd be interested.
Why is the Chazan saying it at all?
To organize the Kehanim, otherwise it would be like a shtickle bedlam. There's a lot of Kehanim to be Mesader, to make sure they get it straight. He's looking in. Lemaisa, I'm sorry? That's a good question. According to me, if the Chaz is a Kohen, then he could say Yivarechecha. It could be that's the Siba for the Minhag, the Kazman. Now, Lemaisa is an Isser Asay for Yisrael to Duchen. So, Frek the Noisei Kelim on the Ramah, how can a guy come along and say, I'm a Kohen, and just Duchen? It's an Isser Asay for Yisrael. So that's what they ask.
But he knows that he's a Kohen.
Answers the Aruch HaShulchan, Givaldig, Haflu Fella, that we don't have to stop him. He knows he's a Kohen. So I want to tell you, the Aruch HaShulchan says like you, that in terms of duchening, of course he can duchen. Because he says, I'm a Kohen, you don't have to get involved. You're not doing any Isser, none of us are doing an Isser. If Yisrael goes up to duchen, it's not the Isser of the crowd, it's his Isser. And he knows he's a Kohen, so it's between him and God.
Or he knows he's not.
Yeah, but it's between him and God. So you're allowed to believe. Now, I want to ask Rabbi Sayabam Kasha, how can he get the Aliyah? This guy came to Yeshiva and said, I'm a Kohen, and we gave him Yisrael. There is a bittul of Ar v'kidashtoi. The guy said, I'm a Kohen. I'm sorry, and we gave him Kohen. I'm asking the opposite of the Noisei Kelim. And we gave this guy Kohen. In terms of duchening, that's his problem. And he says he's a Kohen, fine. In terms of the first Aliyah Avala, we have a mitzvah to give it to a Kohen, a mitzvah d'oraisa v'kidashtoi. How can we give him, this guy Kohen, why isn't it a bittul for us of v'kidashtoi? We're mitzvah d'tzibur to be mechaber a Kohen. We don't know if he's a Kohen, so how's he neman to say he's a Kohen when it's relevant to our asay of v'kidashtoi? He has no nemanis for us, clapping himself. You want to go up to Duchen, buddy, it's your problem. I don't know. But you want the Aliyah, I have a deraisa v'kidashta, you're being mechaber a Kohen. Why isn't it a bittul of our asay when this guy says he's a Kohen? A kasha on the Ramah.
Why is his nemanis different than any other kinds of nemanis?
A kohen's nemanis has to be a chazaka. It's guy no chazaka. Normally, if a guy lives in the community, there's a chezkas kuna. This guy had nobody heard of him, nobody saw him. We didn't know who he was. If a normal kohen in a city, so everybody knows he's a Daniel Goldblatt. His unser kohen, his tata's a famous kohen. He's a famous kohen. This guy had nobody knew where he was from, what planet he was from. We just knew he had rich clothing and he was an ani. And nothing more, nothing less. We didn't know his name, his world. The guy said, I'm a kohen. This guy with a funny story. Now, in the yeshiva, I remember, I can't say edus. I'm pretty sure that he got kohen, that my Rebbe allowed him to get kohen. Remember, things in yeshiva were exact. I'm not saying edus. Emes, I have to be honest, I'm not even saying edus he got kohen, though I think he did. And Rebbe Eliyahu wants. So if there's no other kohen, there's no taina. But if there's another kohen, it's doch a bittul in the kiddushtoi. We have a daraisa avya being mechabed kohanim. Yes.
Well, if someone his father's name is kohen, where's his father get it from? Maybe his father's some random guy.
I agree with you, but that doesn't. That's an excellent time. He's saying even if that guy's a chezkas, it's only from his father. That is such a thing as somebody who's established in our community for certain halachas. There's only certain halachas, you're right, but if a person is b'chezkas kuhuna, the community accepts him as a kohen, there's certain halachas that goes for him.
You just did it by giving the aliyah.
He's known, he's yadua. Then it's not his edus. It's like an anan sadi, the community knows. But this guy, nobody knows anything about him. So why isn't it a bittul of the kiddushtoi? Listen to this good teretz, Aviv. You hear the kasha? Fast the kasha, Reuven Yaina. Listen to this, Chaver. You're going to like it. You know the Chasam Sefer? You know the Chasam Sefer? Rebbe knows the Chasam Sefer. You know this? How do you know this? I was so excited to share with Rebbe. It's my best friend. He knows the Chasam Sefer. You can't tell Rebbe, many you're beautiful. Say over the Chasam Sefer.
I don't know.
I never told it to you.
It's not the guy.
Say.
I don't know.
Says the Chasam Sefer and Rebbe Ezi, brilliant. The Chasam Sefer says it's not a problem of Kiddush, it's a kiyum of the Kiddush. If we gave it to him because he said he's a kohen, so then we were mekayim the Kiddush. It's not like B'shai gave, we weren't mekayim. We did the. Why did I give him that leave? Because he said he's a kohen. I'm mechabed kohanim does haste the Kiddush. The Chasam Sefer says. The Chasam Sefer says if you gave it to him because the guy said he's a kohen, you did the Kiddush. You were mechabed kohanim. If it turns out it's not a kohen, it's like, well, we didn't do v'kiddushtoi. Why did I give him that leave? Because he said he's a kohen. That's called v'kiddushtoi. There's no if there was an isser for Yisrael to get the first aliyah, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. If it's only out the din v'kiddushtoi, says the Chasam Sefer, that v'bal you're giving him the aliyah because he said he's a kohen. That's v'kiddushtoi. We're being mechabed kohanim. And somebody who says a kohen, that's why he's mechabed. Fascinating Chasam Sefer. You could hear that it's a chiddush, but lemaisa, I'm pretty sure I have to ask my friends. This is something that I recall. It's a long time ago. This is going back this go over 30 years. I recall that he got kohen in yeshiva. I know for sure he said he's a kohen. We were tumbling. I'm pretty sure that my Rebbe, and everything, the davening went through my Rebbe, and I'm saying it's a cute story. It's Nageya, Derais, Nageya, the Parsha, but I also want to say that it was a big deal. Each aliyah, things were who davened for the Amud. It was these were careful things in the yeshiva. Things mattered. Things weren't hefker, who got the aliyah, the gabay. Things were done with the raimus, with the sincerity, with an uplifting manner. So it was a big deal. But Lamaisa, I think he got kohen. I'm going to ask my friends, they remember as such. This Chasam said, Gabriel, the Shmach Chasam Sefer, that's called the Kiddush. Amazing Chasam Sefer that I wanted to share with the Chevra.
There's one where
Say over, please,
Rabbi.
Rebbe.
Honored Palm by the dinner. So he said I'm very uncomfortable because you're calling me all these titles. He was from the Hadar and Talmud Chacham, and I know he said on himself, I know it's not true. He said the Chasam Sefer, from the Chasam Sefer I have a nechama, because even though I'm not, you think I'm a Talmud Chacham. That's what Tom said. He said he used the Chasam.
That's amazing. That's amazing shtickle. Your palm took an achama that you're giving me Kavod, so you have a kiyam of mechaber a tam chacham,
Right.
even if I'm not, because you're mechaber, because you think I'm a tam chacham. See, it's a kiyam of the daraisa. That's an amazing zushtal.
I heard it on your...
Now we have a chasam sefer with the Rapam. Myself, amazing, amazing. Thank you, Rabbi Shlita.
That's fine.
I came tonight excited, at least to the rest of the Chav. We shared a Chasam Sefer. Kedark, Rabbi knew already. I have to learn harder and more to tell a Chiddush. But amazing. This was the story by Yun's, our own Maisa Shahaya Kachaya. It's not just like a Chakira. It happened Lamaisa. And I'm Kimat Bar. Again, we have to ask guys that were there. It was a tumult if they were giving him Kain. It wasn't Pashat. I think the Achra was to give him Kain. It's very not Pashat. Even the Paiskim Arayay Mazed, Ramah says to do it, others say, others ask, the Mechaber says not. I'm curious by Svardim what they would do. I'm very curious. By Svardim, if a guy showed up and said, I'm a Kain, the Mechaber says he's not Neman. Prove it. Show us documentation, something. Very, very interesting. Shaila. Lemaisa, this is something all of us have many opportunities in our life to be Mekayim. We have Kehanim amongst us, and we let the Kayin take the first bowl of cholent at the Kiddush. It's a kiyum of a mitzvah daraisa. Pashad nasei v'kidashtoi. To be Mekadesh the Kayin. He's the Kayin. That's a mitzvah daraisa. The beginning of the Parsha. It says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, Emor el Kohanim, speak to the Kohanim, b'nei Aaron, the sons of Aaron, v'amarta aleim, and tell them, l'nefesh lo yitame ba'amav. They should not be mitame. They're servants of Hashem, and as such have to be muchen and mezumen to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, and they can't be mitame, l'nefesh lo yitame ba'amav. They can't go to a levaya, they cannot be mitame to a soul, kiyim except l'sheiri akarvilov, for exceptions of certain relatives, they're allowed to be mitame. Anybody who studies these psukim, there's a clear redundancy. Hashem says to Moshe, say to the Kohanim, b'nei Aaron, and tell them. Say to them and tell them. Emor el Kohanim v'amart aleim is a double lashon. Says Reb Levi Yitzchak Barditchev, says the Barditchever, that they're about to get a shtel of kahuna. They're about to be told that they're meroime mikolam, that they're more elevated. Klal Yisrael can go to levayas. Klal Yisrael can become tamei, but you have a higher level. You're not to be metame. You have special tafkid. Your job is to serve Hashem. You're not allowed to become tamei. Says Reb Levi Yitzchak, there's an introduction before you ever tell a person about a madrega they're going to get. Reb Levi Yitzchak says, Emor el Kohanim, is speak to them first. Vayomer shel Moshe Emor el Kohanim, v'amart aleim, and then tell them l'nefesh lo yitam ba'amav. But there's something before you tell them l'nefesh lo yitam ba'amav. There's an Emor el Kohanim. There's a conversation first. What's the conversation? Says Barditchever, the conversation is don't look down at anybody. Don't look down at anybody. You're going to hear madregas, and the danger of madregas, the danger of growing, of steiging, of acquiring, is it could sometimes be utilized to look low at somebody else, to put down another person. And says the Barditchever, before the Kohanim were told of any madrega that they had, there's an Emor el Kohanim, there's a conversation that has to proceed. And Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to them about Kedushas Yisrael, how precious a Yid is, to be mechabed Yidden, to value Yidden, and not to be miskah, not to have any gaiva. Now, he says in the Psukim, and one can talk about this, that he says the word, what does it say, B'nei Aaron? Emor el Kohanim. He says the B'nai Aaron was good for the humility. Remember, it came from your tata. It's nothing you worked for. He says the B'nai Aaron itself is the shmuz. So it's better in the psukim. But sometimes a word from the Kedushas Levi, the Yid who protected Yidden, who spoke well on Yidden, who was mechabed Yidden, I always saw by my Rebbe was a dahaibin person. He was another type of, he was different. He was a very lofty, elevated person. all the Talmidim saw. And what stood out to us remarkably is how he spoke to every human being, even a guy. Tremendous kavod. Anybody, if he would speak to the custodian, it was like a very big kavod. He speak to the mailman, it was always also like relating to the person. He would ask him some question about the mail. I saw this a number of times, this type of behavior. There was a certain, but it wasn't done like a humoring, like from a thing. It was mechabed people. He spoke a lot about Kiddush Shamayim, and the bigger you are, the more you're mechoyev to be mekadesh Shem Shamayim. He has a Talmud, a friend of mine, who's a goyin b'Torah, a tzaddik, a huge yid who was close to Reb Chaim. He's teaching Torah in Bnei Brak today. A huge tzaddik. I listened to his eulogy of my Rebbe today. A big person. And he called up, this person in his eulogy said that Rebbe called him up and begged him that please, you're a Melamed Torah, you're a Talmud Chacham respected. I understand there's tensions in Eretz Yisrael, but please speak to the Frum Kehillah, to the Bnei Torah, that the more Torah you know, please be careful to be mechabed yidden who aren't where you're up to. My Rebbe said, I feel tensions in Eretz Yisrael, and I understand. There's friction, there's complication, there's all different shilas that are relevant. I get it. But he said, I beg you to teach the tzibur, as you're steiging to be mechabed, all yidden, kol tfutzas Yisrael. And he asked him, he called him up, pleading with him. He called him up, gave him a call. The purpose of the call is to please make sure, as people are steiging, that mechabed kol Yisrael. This was something that was very, very big. It was a big avodah. And it was something important to him. Mechabed human beings, a tremendous dignity. Speaking to anybody, a person, the person mowing the lawn, always had interesting questions. It humbled him. That guy knows things you don't. I saw things with a guy's mowing a lawn. He was a curious person, and it wasn't the from mazach. It's like the guy's mowing the lawn. He knows. He would ask questions to a person about their topic. You're mowing the lawn, but it was always like an interesting question that the guy was much more knowledgeable than any of us. The guy who delivers the mail knows stuff. What happens? I didn't hear the shaila by the mail per se. I saw this on Haga, that he was mechabed everybody he spoke to. The conversations to the simple man were done, and every yid got this respect. Every yid got it. Every yid has his things. Every person has the things. Lahavdil to a yid. This was to a guy. Lahavdil ben kodesh l'chol to a yid. Kodesh kadashim a yid. He was tremendously mechabed people. And this point that Kifi the Madrega, he was a dahaibin person. He's a very elevated, lofty person. And yet this Anhaga, and he taught this Anhaga, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, what Rabbi Barditchever says, Emor al Kehanim, please speak to the Kehanim. Before you tell them, L'nefesh lo yitame ba'amav, before you tell them their madrega, and the stature that they have, and the extra laws, make sure they know. Firstly, be mechabed the hamoinam, be mechabed the masses. Don't look down at people. I said over this Gemara in the Darim, Pei Aleph, that says Talmidei Chacham's kids are often not Talmidei Chacham in Einish. And the Gemara gives 6 reasons, and one of the reasons is because they call people Chamayrim. And if they call the Chamayrim, then it doesn't stay in the family. The kids become Ois Talmidei Chacham. Now it's not just in Einish, it means that the person does not properly absorb Torah. The proper absorption of Torah is understanding the preciousness of every single yid. If his children aren't B'nai Torah, means that it's not, our children are the deepest places of us. And his kid's not being Talmidei Chacham because he calls people Chamayrim. Calls people a donkey. We're studying today, we're all Ba'avelis, we're thinking about Messiah Satar, we're thinking about Rabbi Kiva and his yeshiva. Rabbi Kiva told his Talmidim that when I was not Ma'aretz, I wanted to bite Talmid Chacham, the bite of a donkey. I wanted to crunch the bones of a Talmud Chacham. When they speak about such a violent past that he had, but he was telling L'chayr, he was telling his Talmidim. Taisvis asked Akash and Ksubis that Rabbi Kiva was chosen by his wife because he was Snua Umali, he had good midas. What do you mean he had good midas? He would bite Talmidei Chacham. Doesn't sound so soft and sweet. Says Taisvis he felt hated. Talmidei Chacham wouldn't shake his hand, and he felt hated. It's a teva. When you feel hated, you hate back. And to me, it seems obvious that he told his Talmidim about his hatred of Talmidei Chachamim. He was warning them. You could learn in Torah in Yeshivas Rabbi Kiva. Don't look down at any other yid. Make sure you're mechabed. This always, I'm zeichet to be involved in yeshiva. People are steiging and growing. It's always an important anhaga, and I see it. When somebody steigs in a tifa oifen and is kaina Torah in a secure, deep way, they're mechabed people more. I see the masmidim, the bnei Torah, they're mechabed other people. They're mechabed people greatly. A lot of the success in Torah is discovering that we are built for Torah, and so is he. We're built for Torah, and so is he. We find Torah in ourselves, and he's also shayach to Torah. And being mechabed people as we climb madregas, as we grow, not that we're miraymei mikolam and then we look down. Emor b'nei Aaron, before you tell them about the Raimamus, make sure they know the achrayus to be mechabed. At the point they look down and they separate themselves, then the Torah itself becomes a dangerous samamavas. Then the very madrega becomes something which puts down people and hurts people. But as we're steiging and growing, the tremendous hakpada, to appreciate people, to be mechabed people, that's Rav Levi Yitzchak, that's what he lived. A Yid who was mechabed Yidden, who defended Yidden, who saw Milas in Yisrael. That's this amazing way he read a pasuk in the Torah, that before you tell them l'nefesh layatam ba'am about Milas they have, there's an Emor l'kehanim, there's a conversation to the kehanim first. The Chevra allows this Leil Shishi. I want to sing two songs with the Chevra. I want to sing Atem Tiuli Mamleches Kehanim V'Goy Kadosh. I want to speak about the preciousness of the entirety of our people. So I ask if we could sing that together. And then I want to sing in studying such a Barditchev, and I also this Chasam Sofer, Nifla, this delightful Chasam Sofer, I want to sing Lulei Sairascha with the Chevra also. So if we Ravezi V'Atem Tiuli, let's go. V'yatem tiyuli mamleches koyanim tiyuli Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash v'yatem teyolei Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash v'yatem teyolei Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash v'yatem teyolei Mamlachas koyanim Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash v'yatem teyolei Mamlachas koyanim v'gai kodash Mamlachas koyanim v'gai Kadash V'yatem Teyolei Mamleches Kayanim V'gai Kadash Mamleches Kayanim V'gai Kadash V'yatem Teyolei Mamleches Kayanim V'gai Kadash Mamleches Kayanim V'gai Kadash V'yatem Teyolei Mamleches Kayanim V'gai Kadash Ulei Sarasam Shashu Avaya Azavadeti Hebe Avavani Hilulei Saira Shashu Avaya Azavadeti Hebe Avavani Lei Saira If we could sing one more song before we say good night and good Shabbos to each other, if we could sing a prayer, let's be mispalel for Am Yisrael. Pray ki asanach. Let's sing. It's Leil Shishi. Let's tap into Negunei Shabbos for Pray ki asanach. Pray ki asanach. Imi po ma yiva. ויאפק יסמך, ויאפק יסמך, מי יגבוי גבולוסו, פירויק יסו, נוח, מי פה מריבוסו, ויאפק יסמך, ויאפק יסמך, מי יגוי גבולוסו, ימך דיברת, הוי מקלומה, ימך דיברת, הוי מקלומה, ימך דיברת, הוי מקלומה, ימך דיברת, הוי מקלומה. יש כוח רבי, good Shabbos.